Hello everyone, today is day 7 and it is such a beautiful day outside, so make sure you go out, get some fresh air, see if you can find some beautiful flowers and smell them, and just enjoy the fresh air for as long as you can. But getting into day 7 today we're talking about solving equations. So let's first look at our vocabulary. The first vocabulary word is solve. So go ahead and drag drop to determine the value of a variable. The next one is solution of the equation, and that is the number that makes the equation true. So drag drop. Looking at the first page, you are asked to solve each equation for the value of the unknown variable. So let's look at number 1, and we've gone over this in class many times. I'll give you a similar problem. Let's say the problem was x plus 4 equals 20. Well, we know that we want to isolate x. X wants to be alone, so we can get rid of the positive 4 by doing the inverse, which is negative 4. And you'll subtract that on both sides, bring down your x, cross this out. 20 take away 4 is 16, so x equals 16 in this case. The second problem is the same way, but just that they have the number first and then the variable as the next term. So let's go ahead and do a similar problem. Let's say we were going to do 3 plus r equals 24. Well, the inverse, the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3, so we'll subtract 3 on both sides. Cross this out, bring down our r. 24 take away 3 is 21, and that's what your answer would be. The next one is 5x equals 30. Let's do a similar problem. Let's say the problem was 6x equals 42. Well, again, we want to isolate x. We know that when a number is next to a variable, it means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication would be division. So we would divide 6 on both sides. Cross this out, x would equal 7, okay? And then number 4 is a similar problem to 3, so you can go ahead and solve that one by yourself. Okay, if you look at the next page, on page 3, these are all similar to the last page we went over, so I'm not going to go over any of these types of problems. You should be okay with solving these by yourself. The next page, it's still the same with the exception of they're a decimal, so it may confuse some students, it may not. But just let's try and go over those. So the first problem has a decimal in it. We'll just do a similar one. We'll say that the problem is x plus 3 and 62 hundredths equals 7 and 84 hundredths. Well, the same thing here. We want to isolate x. We want to get rid of the 3 and 62 hundredths, so we would do the inverse, which is we would subtract 3 and 62 hundredths on both sides. So go ahead and do that. Bring down your x, cross this out, and if we subtract, we would get 4 take away 2 is 2, 8 take away 6 is 2, 7 take away 3 is 4, so our x would be 4 and 22 hundredths. The next similar problem to number 2, let's say it was 1045 plus x equals 4,863. So the inverse of positive 1045 is negative 1045, so we would subtract that on both sides. Make sure to draw your line, cross this out, x equals, and then we would subtract 3, take away 5. Well, I can't take 5 out of 3, so I would borrow from my 6, make that a 5, make this a 13. 13 take away 5 is 8, 5 take away 4 is 1, 8 take away 0 is 8, and 3 take away 1 is 3. So my answer would be 3,818. And then the last problem, we have 6p equals 18th and 75 hundredths. So if our problem was 4p equals 16 and 54 hundredths, the inverse of 4p would be to divide 4 on both sides, cross that out, p equals, and we'd have to divide. So if you remember from long division, we have to follow these steps over here. What factor can you multiply? Multiply, subtract, and repeat until we're done. So we can't take any 4s out of 1. So what number can we multiply by 4 to give us 16? Well, we know that 4 times 4 is 16. So we'll multiply 4 times 4 is 16. And then we'll subtract. We'll get 0. Make sure to include your decimal. Bring down my 5, and we will repeat the process. So 4 times what number will give me 5? Well, I know 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. That's too big, so I'll go ahead and use 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 5 take away 4 is 1, and go ahead and bring down your 4. 4 times what number will give me 14? Well, I know 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16, so that's too big. I'll go ahead and use 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. 14 take away 12 is 2. And I'll just add a 0. And I know that 4 times 5 is 20. So my answer would be 4 and 135 thousandths for that problem. All right, and for the last page on number 5, we have 2 word problems. Let's just change the numbers here in the first problem to 9 shirts, and we'll say for a total of $72, okay? All right, Brian buys 9 shirts for a total of $72. Express this as an equation using X as the cost of each shirt, then solve the equation for the value of X. So what would our equation be? Well, if he buys 9 shirts, we don't know how much each shirt costs, so that would be 9 times the number of shirts would equal the total of $72. And if we solve for that equation, then we would say, and you could just do this part on scrap paper, right? You would say 9x equals 72. You would divide 9 on both sides, and x would equal 8. So you would say each shirt would cost you $8, right? All right, so for number 2, let's change it. She buys 148 to she buys 126, and she has a total of 402. Okay, Nicole has an unknown number of colored pencils. She buys 126 more and then counts that she has a total of 402. Write an equation to describe this scenario. Use X for the original number of pencils, then solve the equation for the value of X. So what would our equation be? Well, we know that she buys 126 more. So when we talk about the word more, we're adding, right? So we have X plus 126, right? Because we don't know the number of pencils, the number of pencils that she bought. We know that she bought 126 more, right? And she has a total of 402. So that's our equation. You can go ahead and solve for X on scrap paper and just put your answer. So in this case, the inverse of addition is subtraction. We would subtract 126 on both sides. Bring down our X, cross this out, and 402 take away 126. 2 take away 6 is too small, 0 is too small, so we'll borrow from the 4, make it a 3, make this a 10, make this a 9, make this a 2, and 12 take away 6 is 6, 9 take away 2 is 7, and then 3 take away 1 is 2. So we know the original number of pencils she bought is 276. I know that was a long lesson, but go ahead and do the assignment for day number 7, and I will see you tomorrow in day number 8. Bye-bye.